For more than 2,000 years, a city built during the rise of one of history's greatest conquerors seemed to vanish without a trace. Buried beneath shifting desert sands, its ruins remained hidden from the world, slowly fading into legend. Ancient writings hinted at its existence, a powerful city connected to the empire of Alexander the Great, a place where merchants from distant lands once gathered, where ships carried gold, spices, and knowledge across vast ancient trade routes. But after the fall of Alexander's empire, something strange happened. The city disappeared. No clear ruins, no maps that revealed its location, and almost no surviving records explaining what happened to it. For centuries, historians debated whether this city was ever real at all, or simply a story lost in the pages of time. But today, new discoveries beneath the soil of ancient Mesopotamia are beginning to reveal something extraordinary. Hidden beneath layers of earth and forgotten history, archaeologists may have uncovered the remains of a city lost for more than 2,000 years. A city that could change what we know about the empire of Alexander the Great and the ancient world itself. This is the mystery of Alexander's lost city. In the year 336 BCE, a young king rose to power in the small kingdom of Macedon. His name was Alexander the Great. At just 20 years old, he inherited not only a throne, but a vision of conquest, a vision to unite the known world under a single empire. What followed would become one of the most extraordinary military campaigns in human history. Alexander led his army across vast deserts, treacherous mountains, and powerful empires. His soldiers, disciplined and relentless, marched in tight formations known as the phalanx. Shield by shield, spear by spear, they became nearly unstoppable. One by one, great kingdoms fell before him. The mighty Persian Empire, once considered invincible, was brought to its knees. Cities that had stood for centuries surrendered or were conquered. And with every victory, Alexander's empire grew larger, stronger, unmatched. But Alexander was not just a conqueror, he was a builder. Wherever he went, he founded new cities. Cities that would carry his name and his legacy. These were not ordinary settlements. They were carefully planned centers of power, culture, and trade. Greek architecture rose in distant lands. Temples, palaces, and marketplaces were built in regions that had never seen such designs before. These cities became melting pots of civilizations, where Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and even Indian cultures began to merge. At the heart of this growing empire, new trade routes were formed. Goods, knowledge, and ideas flowed across continents. And along one of the most important rivers of the ancient world, a new city began to rise. A city that would soon become a vital link between East and West. A city that would carry the mark of Alexander himself. But unlike his other great foundations, this one would not stand the test of time. Because somewhere in the centuries that followed, this city would disappear, vanishing from maps, from records, and almost from history itself. And what happened next would become one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. As Alexander's empire expanded, new cities began to rise across the ancient world. But among them, one stood apart. Built along the banks of a powerful river, this city became more than just a settlement. It became a gateway. Located near the great Tigris River, the city quickly grew into a vital center of trade. Ships arrived from distant lands, carrying goods from across the known world. Gold from the west, spices from the east, and knowledge from every civilization in between. The streets were filled with life. Merchants negotiated deals in crowded marketplaces. Caravans arrived through massive gates, and cultures blended in ways never seen before. Greek, Persian, Egyptian, even Indian influences could be found within its walls. At the heart of the city stood grand temples and public spaces, symbols of power, belief, and unity. Scholars recorded history, traders built wealth, and the city continued to grow stronger with every passing year. This was not just a city. It was a connection between worlds, a place where empires met and ideas traveled beyond borders. But as powerful as it became, something began to change. Trade routes shifted. Empires rose and fell. And slowly, almost silently, this great city began to fade. The bustling markets grew quieter. The ships stopped arriving. And the city that once connected civilizations was left behind. Until one day, it disappeared completely. No clear records, no surviving maps. Only fragments of history, hinting that it ever existed at all. And what happened next would turn this thriving city into one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. At its peak, the city was alive, filled with trade, culture, and power. But history has shown even the greatest cities are not immune to collapse. It began slowly, subtle changes, barely noticeable at first. The river that once gave life to the city began to turn against it. Water levels shifted. Floods became more frequent, more violent. Storms rolled in with increasing force. Dark clouds covered the skies, and heavy rains flooded the streets that were once filled with life. The same river that built the city now threatened to destroy it. But nature may not have been the only threat. As empires weakened, conflict followed. A city once protected by power was now vulnerable. Invaders saw opportunity. Walls were breached. Fires spread across the city, and chaos took over. People fled through the streets, trying to escape a fate that was closing in around them. Homes were abandoned, shops left empty, and the noise of a once thriving city began to fade. Then came the silence. The markets that once thrived stood empty. The ships that filled the harbor were gone. The voices of thousands replaced by nothing but wind and dust. Over time, the city was abandoned, left behind as if it had never mattered. Sand began to cover what remained. Temples buried, walls swallowed, and the memory of the city slowly disappeared from history. Centuries passed, and the world moved on, until one day this city was no longer remembered as a place, but as a mystery. A city that once connected civilizations, now lost beneath the earth. And just like that, it was gone. For centuries, no one knew where it had gone, or if it had ever truly existed at all. But what if the story doesn't end here? Because beneath the sand, something still remains, waiting to be discovered.